Now, and because I've been on with Professor Narande, who I have the deepest respect for, but I've said this over and over again, and I've said it. So I'm extraordinarily frustrated by this because this was a predictable event. A predictable event. Now, to Iran's credit, they were trying to negotiate in good faith to get out of this. Iran was willing to give up all of its 60% enriched uranium. Iran was ready to accept caps on its enrichment capacity at 3.75%, that necessary to make fuel for the Bushehr reactor and whatever reactors Iran might be getting. They were willing to find ways to deal with their excess enrichment capability, to include the concept of, foreign involvement in a fuel bank. They were willing to work with the Russians. They were willing to allow U.S. inspectors on the ground in Iran as part of the IAEA inspection team, something they had never allowed. All of this. Their lead negotiator, Ali Shamkhani, a close advisor to the supreme leader, to the president, was on TV I think 2 days before the Israeli attack, saying, "Yeah, we're ready to sign a treaty that says no nuclear weapons." So Iran did all the right things after getting themselves in a very difficult situation. I think Iran realized that they had pushed it up to this concept of a threshold capability up as far as they could go. That they stopped waving the red flag. They started to withdrawal from the ring, but it was too late. Israel recognizing this launched their attack, because if Shamkhani had been allowed to meet with Witkoff and they had come up with an agreement on Sunday, politically it would have been impossible for Israel to attack. But the other thing I think we're also finding out is that while Witkoff may have been negotiating in good faith, Donald Trump wasn't. That Donald Trump was always using this negotiation process as a mechanism to buy time and build justification for an Israeli intervention.
Why did Amazon send me $20,000? Because I use Amazon AI. I'm going to show you a way to potentially make money by pairing Amazon with the power of AI without ever selling physical products. And I promise you've never heard about this before. I did it with a free app that's probably already on your phone, and that app is the Kindle app. Hi, I'm Carla Marie, and the coolest part is Amazon puts over 300 million customers just a click away. So age, experience, qualifications, none of it matters. I want to share my full system with you, but obviously this is an ad. So I'm hosting a free workshop where I walk you through my system step by step. This system's transformed my life, and it's sprinkled a little magic into the lives of hundreds of other people. Now, I hate workshops that are so slow and boring that they send you to sleep. So I made sure that this workshop moves fast and that it's fun, exciting, and informative. That said, if you love face-to-face selling, don't click on this ad. You see, with this, you never need to talk to anyone or push products and people. So this definitely isn't a good fit for someone with a salesy personality type. However, if you want to learn a low-key way to potentially make some extra money working from home that can cover some important bills and help you enjoy more fun trips, don't wait. Click anywhere around this video and watch the free workshop now. Discover how we create reliable streams of semi-passive income without complex websites, unneeded stress, or huge startup costs. You'll even get 3 valuable bonuses just for watching. We've designed these bonuses to help you succeed with this as fast as possible. I can't promise this training will be free forever, so watch it now. Could this be the stepping stone you need to start living the kind of life you've only dreamed of? There's only one way to find out. So quick now, watch the training, claim your bonuses. You'll be glad you did. I'll see you on the other side.
You know, literally, you're making money while you sleep.
Is your mind secretly sabotaging your success? What if there was a way you could instantly stop self-sabotage and reprogram it for success today? And sleep all the way down, all the way down. The world's highest achievers have a secret that they don't advertise. It's not their morning routine, it's not their diet, it's how they program their subconscious mind for massive success. Dom the Hypnotist here. You may have heard about me on the Joe Rogan podcast or ESPN. Maybe your favorite NFL, UFC, Olympic athlete, actor, or celebrity had done some work with me.
I worked with this guy named Dom the Hypnotist. He has a big Instagram. He's a really, really smart guy. He had helped me realize was that because I've seen so many people get the stuff growing up.
Name is Dom the Hypnotist. I want to give him a shout out. He's amazing. Poverty. I was broke. Didn't have no girlfriends. So, I used to be like that, depressed, and So my motivation for many years, it just came from being broke.
I put together a free live hypnosis session where I'm going to help you break through your subconscious barriers and take your life to the next level. Now, the hypnosis session you're going to experience is the same exact session I've used on some of the top performers in the world to help them consistently perform their best. There's a reason some of the most successful people in the world attribute their success to being hypnotized. People like Mike Tyson.
What else customer used to do with me? He used to take me to a hypnotist. He was a hypnotist as well.
Yeah.
I was something like that before, like taking a big drug and loosen your spoon, your soap, and get him in. Did anybody tell me you did great?
Rob Deerdeck.
He said, dude, back then, Durdick was a Daryl, dude, just drunk and smoking weed and shit. And then it wasn't until you went to this Dr. Pratt, who was a hypnotist.
The first test he did on me was like, you don't believe you were meant, your subconscious doesn't believe you were meant to be successful. And then, lo and behold, we did a handful of sessions, and I've never taken a step backwards. Never again in my life.
Tiger Woods.
When I come down and stay with him at the Junior World Championships, we do some sessions. And it was pretty cool how it helped me understand a different part of my creativity.
Many, many others. In today's highly competitive world, the edge isn't working harder. It's tapping into the other 90% of your brain that you're currently not using. Now, why am I doing this free live hypnosis session? Because I believe everybody deserves access to these tools, not just the elite. Now, in my free live hypnosis session, we're going to program your subconscious mind to attract success without grinding or working harder, eradicate self-sabotage that's holding you back, and access the confidence and clarity for you to take a step forward and create your dream life starting today. Now, I put on these free live hypnosis sessions a few times per week, so if you're ready for a massive breakthrough to get into the top 1% of the 1%, this session is for you. So here's what you're gonna do. Click the link below this video, check out the times that I'm putting the free live hypnosis session on this week, and schedule whichever one works best for you. Now look, I'm not gonna be doing this forever, so you wanna take advantage of it while you can, and just think, what would happen if we helped you break through those mental barriers to truly have the confidence and personal power to create your dream life? What if you only got 10% better? Would it be worth a few minutes of your time to experience this hypnosis session? Well, if so, click the link below this video and get access to the free live hypnosis session now.
And Donald Trump is the one who told the Iranians, Sunday is the critical day. That's why Shamkhani was on TV saying, we're ready. We're ready to bring this thing to fruition. We're ready to seal the deal. We're ready to do what is necessary to avoid this, any potential conflict. And Trump set them up. Meanwhile, Trump was working with the Israelis to attack. And we know this. We know it. One, Trump has pretty much admitted it. But two, David Kurilla, the same general that I just spoke about, briefed the president prior to the Israeli action that the United States military was prepared to execute a range of military options against Iran. That meant right now. You can't make that briefing knowing that Israel is going to attack without knowing that you have to deconflict. That means that the U.S. attack plan was fully deconflicted with the Israeli attack plan. And the president knew this. We knew this attack was going to take place, this Pearl Harbor event. And I use that Pearl Harbor event term because it's important. This was a surprise attack. There's no justification for this attack under international law. If Israel wants to declare their right to preemptive self-defense under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, then they need to articulate that. They need to go to the United Nations and the Security Council and confront the Security Council with the imminent threat posed by Iran. But you can't make that case when Iran is in the process of negotiating with the United States to eliminate the things that made that threat imminent. Israel has no justification. Their concept of preemptive strike is legally flawed. They are a criminal entity here. They are guilty of the greatest war crime possible, and that is to execute a war of aggression, which is what Israel has done here. They started a war of aggression, and the United States is complicit because we facilitated it. We worked with them. We are culpable just as they are in this. And I think the Israelis and Donald Trump believed that they were going to launch a shock and awe campaign. Decapitate. They killed Shamkhani. They killed the negotiator, and they killed senior Iranian military officials. And I think they believe that by decapitating the Iranian leadership and then hitting Tehran and the nuclear sites with the shock and awe explosions, that Iran will collapse like a house of cards. Instead, what they got is the harsh reality of Iranian retaliation, which is ongoing and devastating to Israel.
When it comes to the initial hours of the attack, Israeli attack on Iran, can we say what has happened to Iranian defense system? Why it took time to respond to Israel?
I think any military person understands that when you put your military on high alert, that is not something you can sustain indefinitely. So you normally don't raise your high alert status until you believe that there's the real potential that you're going to be under attack. Iran was told that there's no danger of attack. Iran was told that there's a negotiation taking place. Iran was preparing for that negotiation. Now people can say how immature and how this and how that. Well, you know what? You're not Iranian. I know you are, but you're not an Iranian government official. You don't have the burden or responsibility of a nation on your shoulders. And I believe the Iranian government honestly believed that this negotiation was going to happen, that this negotiation was the critical juncture. Now, had that negotiation gone bad, then Iran would have elevated its posture. But you can't maintain a high level of readiness indefinitely. And so I just think the Iranians, had allowed themselves to be lulled into a false sense of complacency. I also believe that the Israelis are pretty damn good at what they do. I mean, they had apparently a massive series of drone factories and throughout Iran that were used to launch these decapitation strikes. Again, I think it was on your show, Nima, where I confronted Professor Rania about this. If you remember, I said that the assassination of Hania was done by a Mossad drone. I said, what the hell? How does that happen? Do you not understand that Israel now has the capacity to take out your leadership in a preemptive strike? I predicted this very thing on this show with Professor Morandi. I said Israel will use drones to carry out a preemptive strike. Why Iran wasn't able to safeguard themselves or to do something to prevent this, I don't know. But the Israelis are pretty damn good. These are the same guys that infiltrated Hezbollah, got pagers in there, took out a good chunk of Hezbollah's intermediate leadership. These are the guys that found out where Nasrallah was and killed him. So you don't have to support Israel to understand that their intelligence services are very good and their air force is very good with very good pilots, very good aircraft, very good munitions. And so if Iran's asleep at the wheel, believing there's going to be a negotiation on Sunday, Israel gets a clean shot, and that's what they did. They got a very clean shot in there. It did a lot of damage, but it wasn't a knockout punch. I mean, I'm always reminded of, I tell people, you don't want to go up to Mike Tyson in his prime and try to cold cock him, because if you don't knock him out and he looks at you, you're in a lot of trouble. Israel didn't knock Iran out. Iran is the equivalent of Mike Tyson in his prime. And Iran now is pivoted back on Israel and making Israel pay a price.
Scott, you mentioned that they were planning. It seems that many of our guests are suggesting that Israel was planning this attack for years. And if we assume that, and what has happened in Russia, it seems that they hope Ukraine to go and attack Russia as well, because it was the same sort of strategy, bringing the drones and just somehow using the drones against. Don't you think that it's a somehow what they're doing is somehow against a broader picture? It's not just a local conflict. It's not just about Russia and Iran. It's bigger than that. And the way that they convinced Donald Trump is because of the bigger picture. They could convince Donald Trump with that.
Well, I don't want to say that Israel alone did this. For instance, we know that the British have very, very close relations with the Ukrainians. In fact, I think the Ukrainian drone operation was actually a British operation. But what this suggests to me is that there's interaction between the British and the Israelis as well, and the United States. That the Mossad doesn't necessarily operate in a vacuum. So what we're looking at here is that there is a cabal of intelligence services that conspire against targets of mutual interest, whether it be Russia or it be Iran. Remember the Stuxnet virus attack against the Iranians was a joint American-Israeli operation. It was eventually executed by the Israelis without the permission of the United States, by the way, but it was developed jointly. I believe that the concept of using drones as a hybrid force multiplier is one that is collectively conceived and collectively prepared for, but maybe individually executed, meaning that the Ukrainians executed that operation inside Russia and the Israelis executed this operation inside Iran. But the concept and the preparation, the planning, the support, I think it's done collectively. I think there's this collective cabal of intelligence organizations that are working together to achieve outcomes around the world that are beneficial to all the parties involved. It's in Ukraine's interest to see Iran degraded, given the support that Iran has provided to Russia. And therefore it's in Mossad's interest to keep Ukraine, satisfied that this is, a part of the world that Ukraine should be focusing its energies on, as opposed to being solely, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing. So I think that it's not as easy just to say the Mossad is doing it all. The Mossad is good, but it's not that good. The Mossad can't function outside of Israel without liaison intelligence services. At least they can't function fully. So I think what we're looking right now is collaboration as opposed to Mossad domination.
And looking at what Israel is attacking Iran is, if we separate the initial hours of their attack into mostly, if you look at what has happened in Iran, it's just 80% of what has happened was before the initial hours. And after that, they didn't do that much. They're trying to do terrorist acts in Iran, as you've mentioned about this network of terrorists and who are preparing, producing drones and all of that. But Iran's intelligence is just capturing what is, you follow the Iranian media, you see how they're just getting these people out, they're finding these people who are collaborating with Israel. As time goes by, I think they're going to go weaker inside Iran. How they can continue the conflict if that goes in that direction, and with the way we know that the air defense systems are not working the way we knew about it before, but it's somehow many people out there, they don't know what is the capability of the air defense system of Israel. How can you explain the situation as time goes by if this war turns into a war of attrition?
Yeah, Israel delivered a Sunday punch in its Pearl Harbor attack on Iran. But as you pointed out, the vast majority of the strikes that were done, especially in Tehran, were carried out by drones, not by Israeli aircraft. The notion that Israel has air superiority over Iranian airspace is largely an Israeli propaganda ploy, trying to demoralize the people of Iran. Because remember, we're not looking at a campaign that's focused on you know neutralizing Iran's nuclear capability. We're looking at a regime change operation. From the Western perspective, the perspective of Israel, this operation will not be deemed complete and successful until the theocracy that governs Iran is eliminated. So this is an existential struggle for Israel. So a lot of what's going on right now is propaganda. The way Israel postures this conflict. I mean, I had to laugh. Mario Nafal has just become, he's an influencer on X, and he's just become a mouthpiece of this pro-Israeli propaganda exercise, where he just literally uses the same verbiage. And one thing you're taught as a journalist, if you want to be truly objective, is never become prisoner to the lexicon on any given side. But so Israel's hammering this, and the Iranians are, melting away. I mean, it's pathetic. And then he just puts out deliberately deceptive videos. You've been to Tehran. You've seen Tehran traffic at rush hour. Now, imagine you getting up there and taking a photograph of, Highway 7 or whatever, the belt road around Tehran at rush hour of, traffic parked in. Well, that's sort of like a daily occurrence, twice a day perhaps. And yet, they're publishing this out there saying Iranians are fleeing Tehran. They're scared. Now, I've spoken to Iranians in Tehran. I'm sure you have as well. They're scared. Who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be scared when you have a nuclear-armed superpower saying the citizens of Tehran must evacuate? When Israel, with a track record of the Dahiwa principle of collective punishment, is now threatening to do the same thing against the Iranians. I mean, so of course they're afraid. But the notion that Iran is on the cusp of collapse, I think, is not an accurate assessment of the situation. So there's a lot of propaganda at play here. The Israelis clearly have the capacity to launch standoff weapons, and those weapons can penetrate to some extent the Iranian air defense, and they are striking strategic targets. Israel is able to get localized air superiority over given targets at a given point in time. For instance, Natanz, where they have been very successful in dropping very heavy bunker busting bombs on that facility. They've done so at Isfahan. They've done so, at Tabriz, in other locations. We have to give Israel its due. They are successful, but it doesn't mean that they're having the dominance, the success there. Iran was taken by surprise in a tactical sense, even in an operational sense, but not in a strategic sense. Iran has been preparing for this conflict for a long time. And the military preparation is manifest today with the decisive retaliation. But I'd also like to bring another factor up. I don't know what the Iranians have done, but I know they're smart. During Desert Storm, I was heavily involved in the targeting aspects of what we were doing with the strategic air campaign, especially when it came to the weapons of mass destruction facilities. And so before we would bomb any site in Iraq, I was part of the people preparing that package. And then after the bombing was done, I was responsible for doing the analysis on whether or not we achieved our operational objectives at a given site. And the way we did this is we evaluated the site, we evaluated what was in the site, what we wanted to achieve by that. And then we said, if the following visual cues can be made regarding impacts, we can assume that if the bomb hit where we wanted it to hit, that it achieved a certain level of destruction inside the site. And I remember looking at various sites throughout Iraq saying we have achieved destruction, total destruction based upon the visual cues. Then later I went to Iraq as a weapons inspector, and I go to these same sites. And I'm talking about within months of the war ending, so the targets are freshly destroyed. And what we saw is the sites were emptied. And then later on, what we found out is that these sites had been emptied and evacuated to places that we didn't know about, we didn't bomb. And what the Iraqis told me several times is, we're really good at pouring concrete. You guys are pretty good at blowing up concrete. We're pretty good at pouring concrete. The problem is you ain't blowing up what you think you're blowing up. And they would return the equipment, they'd rebuild the building, return the equipment, and it was back up to running the way it was before the war started. The point I'm trying to make is, if you think that in Isfahan, in the metallurgy facility, that transforms uranium yellowcake into uranium hexafluoride for feedstock and such, if you think the critical equipment, I'm not talking about the big infrastructure stuff that can't be moved, I'm talking about the critical equipment, if you think that was still there when the Israelis bombed it, you're high. Firdos. Firdos is an underground facility, but originally Firdos was part of a series of evacuation sites created by the Iranians. They pre-built these underground facilities to evacuate.
Yeah, the correct pronunciation is Fordo.
Of course it is, but I am a Marine and I'm allowed to mispronounce any word in the world and not be accused of insulting people. Thank you for correcting me. But I spent I don't know how many weeks mispronouncing the oh God, I'm going to miss Baba Mandev straight. I fumbled that like you wouldn't believe until I finally one day got it right, and it created a stir on the internet that Scott Ritter finally said it correctly. So Fordo.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I apologize. I got it wrong. But that site, the one that begins with an F and sounds like Fordo, what didn't start out as a alternative enrichment facility. It started out as just an evacuation site, one of many Iran has prepared all around the country, all of which are underground and hardened. I have a funny feeling that the vast majority of things that Israel is bombing don't contain what Israel thinks they contain. That the very sensitive equipment has been withdrawn, evacuated, and awaiting a time when this campaign is over and Iran can prove how good they are at pouring concrete, rebuilding facilities, and then reconstituting this program. That the perception that Iran's nuclear program can be eliminated by bombing is a false perception. A totally false perception that the vast majority of this equipment, the sensitive equipment, is in locations that Israel doesn't know about, the United States doesn't know about, and that you're basically bombing, empty sites, doing damage. There's no doubt about it. They're doing damage, and they may be, interdicting some critical infrastructure, which means it could be a delay in the reconstitution of this program. But the idea that you've eliminated this program through bombing has always been a false dream. Always been a false dream, and I think that's the case today. That not only is Israel not achieving what it wants to achieve, it's creating the conditions for its own demise, because Israel's getting weaker. Iran is rounding up these drones, the Mossad networks that are doing this. It was amazing the other day. You saw the video of the giant building full of drone parts and all that kind of stuff. There was hundreds of millions of dollars worth. That might be an exaggeration. There was a lot of money of equipment located in that facility. To build that facility took time. The cover story, the people, to make this thing operate.
10 years, Scott. 10 years. These people who are right now, they were captured by the Iranian intelligence. They're talking about 10 years cooperating with Israel.
Yeah. And so this is a huge loss for Israel, because you don't, if it's 10 years, you don't immediately replicate it. All right, well, we lost a couple of our drone boys. Let's go ahead and readily reconstitute this. You can't. And these people had deep cover stories. These people were thoroughly integrated into Iranian society to escape detection. That capacity is gone, and you don't regenerate that, not overnight. And so Israel's just going to get weaker and weaker. Now, the Israelis have said come Thursday and Friday, they're going to do something that's going to shock everybody. And in my mind, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the Israelis have another capacity. Maybe phones will start blowing up. Maybe, who knows? I know that Professor Rania was advised to get rid of his phone. And hopefully he has done this, and hopefully other people have done that as well. Change your pattern of life. Do something to make sure that whatever happens on Thursday and Friday, if it happens, doesn't achieve the outcomes that they want. But there's no doubt in my mind that the Israelis have another trick up their sleeve that they're going to try. But
what does it mean to live a rich life? It means brave first leaps, tearful goodbyes, and everything in between. With over 100 years navigating market ups and downs, we'll help you move ahead with confidence.
Paper forms belong in a museum, not your office. FormStack makes it easy to automate your work so you can send paper processes packing. Go from idea to workflow in minutes with FormStack.
These are tricks. This isn't war. This is trickery. You don't win wars with flashy one-of games. You win wars with sustained military capacity, and Israel is running out of its ability to, launch a sustained air campaign. I always said, and I've said this for many years, that while Israel can initiate